In October 2024, a young mother sent a series of desperate text messages to her friends, showing them fresh bruises and bite marks. These weren't just signs of abuse. They were warnings of a meticulously planned revenge plot that had been in motion for months. Mary Jayne Collins, 23, thought she had found love. Instead, she had walked straight into a trap set by a man who spent 4 months pretending to care for her, all while plotting to destroy her. The truth would emerge through a chilling video call that captured her boyfriend taunting a prison inmate, followed by the sound of a child crying. Hours later, Mary Jayne Collins was dead. But this wasn't a simple case of domestic violence. This was revenge, cold, calculated revenge against the father of her children. Her new boyfriend hadn't chosen her by chance. He had selected her specifically, watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The reason? A 4-year-old murder case that connected all of them in ways Mary Jayne never knew until it was too late. Mary Jayne Collins was more than just another victim. She was a devoted 23-year-old mother of 2 boys under 10. Living in Seabrook, Texas, she had recently moved into the Teakwood apartment complex, hoping to build a better life for her children. Friends described her as resilient and loving, always putting her sons first, despite the challenges of young motherhood. She worked hard to provide for her family, even maintaining a relationship with her children's father, Michael King, after his incarceration, to ensure her boys had that connection. In June 2024, when she met Dawayland Hurst, Mary Jayne believed she had found someone who would help her create the stable family life she dreamed of. She had no way of knowing that this relationship would lead to her death. Before we delve deeper into this devastating story, I need your help with something important. Cases like Mary Jayne's often go untold, but together we can change that. If you've ever known someone affected by domestic violence, or if this story has touched you, leave a comment below with a heart emoji. Your comment could help someone else feel less alone. This video contains crucial information about recognizing dangerous relationship patterns. Share it with someone who might need to hear this story. It could save a life. Hit that like button to help this reach more people, and subscribe to join our true crime community where we bring attention to cases that matter. Let me know in the comments. What would you do if you discovered someone close to you was in an abusive relationship? By early 2024, Mary Jayne Collins had established a routine at the Teakwood apartment complex in Seabrook, Texas. Each morning, she'd wake her 2 young boys, get them ready for school, and head to work, carrying the responsibilities of single motherhood on her shoulders. Her apartment, though modest, was filled with evidence of a mother's love. Children's drawings on the fridge, toys carefully organized in corners, and photos of her son's milestones covering the walls. Those who knew Mary Jayne spoke of her determination. At just 23, she had already weathered significant challenges, having her first child while still a teenager. Yet instead of letting this derail her dreams, she worked harder, ensuring her children never felt the weight of their circumstances. She maintained open communication with both fathers of her children, believing that despite past relationships ending, her boys deserved to know their heritage and family history. Her grandmother's house became a weekend sanctuary for the family. Here, Mary Jayne's boys would play in the yard while she shared her hopes and dreams with her grandmother. She spoke of wanting to return to school, of plans to move into a bigger apartment, and of her dedication to giving her sons the stable, loving home she envisioned. What made her story particularly poignant was how close she had come to achieving these goals before everything changed. Michael King's path crossed with Mary Jayne's story long before her death. First as the father of one of her children, and later as an unwitting catalyst in the tragedy that would unfold. By 2024, King was serving time for a murder that would eventually connect all the pieces of this devastating puzzle. The story traced back to July 31, 2020 in Texas City. On that day, King, then 20 years old, took the life of a young man named Dawayland Hurst. The details of that murder rocked the local community, leading to King's swift arrest and conviction. While behind bars, King maintained contact with his child through video calls, attempting to be present in his son's life despite his incarceration. Before his imprisonment, King had built a complex relationship with Mary Jayne. Though their romantic connection had ended, they worked to maintain a civil co-parenting relationship for their son's sake. Mary Jayne never spoke ill of King to their child, believing that despite his crimes, their son deserved to form his own opinions about his father. She regularly facilitated video calls between father and son, maintaining this connection even after King's incarceration. What no one could have predicted was how King's past actions would eventually lead to Mary Jayne's death. The murder he committed in 2020 set in motion a chain of events that would take 4 years to reach their tragic conclusion. The video calls he made from prison would later become crucial evidence in understanding the final hours of Mary Jayne's life. The morning Dawayland Hurst first approached Mary Jayne Collins at a local convenience store marked the beginning of her final 4 months alive. He struck up a conversation while she was buying snacks for her children, commenting on the character logos on the packages and sharing a story about his own childhood favorites. Mary Jayne, touched by his easy way with her boys who were with her that morning, found herself drawn into conversation. What appeared to be a chance meeting was anything but. Hurst had been watching Mary Jayne for weeks, learning her routines, noting when she usually shopped and which store she frequented. He knew which car she drove, where she lived, and most importantly, who her children's father was. That morning, he arranged to be at the store at precisely the right time, carrying the right conversation topics to seem relatable and safe. Within days, he began appearing at places Mary Jayne frequented, creating more accidental meetings until she came to expect and welcome his presence. The first months of Mary Jayne and Hurst's relationship painted a picture of normalcy that fooled everyone around them. Hurst masterfully played the role of the devoted boyfriend, showing up at her apartment with home-cooked meals and offering to help with childcare. He'd sit through Disney movies with her boys, help with homework, and even volunteered to drive them to school. Friends observed how Hurst seemed to understand the challenges of dating a single mother. He respected when Mary Jayne needed to focus on her children and appeared supportive of her maintaining a co-parenting relationship with her children's fathers. He even encouraged her to keep up the video calls between her son and Michael King, despite privately harboring his true feelings about these connections. On social media, Mary Jayne shared photos of happy moments, Hurst teaching her eldest son to ride a bike, family picnics at the park, and quiet evenings at home. Her grandmother later recalled how Mary Jayne had spoken of finally finding someone who understood that her children came first in her life. By late August, subtle changes in Mary Jayne's behavior caught the attention of those closest to her. Her usual Thursday coffee dates with friends became sporadic, often canceled at the last minute with vague excuses. Her once active social media accounts grew quiet, with fewer posts about her daily life and children. The first physical evidence appeared when Mary Jayne visited her grandmother with a bite mark on her face. She brushed it off as a playful accident, but her grandmother noticed how she flinched when Hurst called during their visit. That same week, a friend spotted Mary Jayne at the grocery store, wearing a long-sleeved shirt in 90-degree Texas heat. Text messages to friends began showing a pattern. Mary Jayne would share photos of bruises or marks, followed quickly by messages asking them not to worry or tell anyone. She explained them away as accidents, bumping into doors, falling while cleaning, playing too roughly with the kids. But her friends noticed something else. These accidents only seemed to happen when Hurst was around. September brought a sharp escalation in Hurst's behavior that Mary Jayne could no longer hide. During a birthday party for her youngest son, friends noticed how Hurst constantly hovered nearby, monitoring her conversations. When Mary Jayne spent too long chatting with a neighbor, he grabbed her arm so hard it left finger-shaped bruises. Her phone calls to friends became whispered conversations from bathroom stalls or quick calls during her lunch break. In these moments, she revealed more disturbing details. Hurst had begun threatening her children, claiming he would hurt them if she told anyone about the abuse. She sent photos showing scratches across her back, bruises on her arms, and a swollen eye, each image accompanied by frightened texts begging friends not to call the police. By early October, Mary Jayne's co-workers reported seeing her arrive at work with visible injuries. She began missing shifts, calling in sick more frequently. When she did come to work, she wore heavy makeup and kept her head down. The final week of her life, she confided in her grandmother, "If anything happens to me, look at Hurst. He's not who we thought he was." The truth about Dawayland Hurst emerged through a connection no one had initially seen. Hidden beneath his facade of caring boyfriend lay a devastating link to Mary Jayne's past. Hurst was the half-brother of Dawayland triplet, the man Michael King had killed in 2020. This wasn't just a relationship gone wrong. It was revenge, 4 years in the making. Every moment Hurst spent with Mary Jayne and her children had been part of his plan to strike back at King. He had deliberately sought out the mother of King's child, knowing that hurting her would cause King the same pain he felt when his brother died. The timing of their chance meeting at the convenience store, his interest in her children, his encouragement of the prison video calls, all were calculated steps in his vengeful scheme. Police later discovered that Hurst had spent months researching Mary Jayne before approaching her. He knew her routines, her struggles as a single mother, and most crucially, her connection to King. While Mary Jayne worked to maintain a peaceful co-parenting relationship with her children's father, Hurst silently plotted how to use this very connection to execute his revenge. At this moment, I need to pause this devastating revelation to address something crucial. Revenge can destroy multiple lives, creating ripples of tragedy that affect innocent people, especially children. If this story has impacted you, take a moment to share it with others who need to hear this warning. Hit that like button if you believe these stories need to be told to raise awareness about hidden dangers in relationships. Subscribe to join our community dedicated to preventing similar tragedies through education and awareness. I'm curious, what warning signs did you notice in Hurst's behavior? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insight could help someone recognize dangerous patterns in their own life or the life of someone they love. October 4th, 2024 began as an ordinary Thursday at the Teakwood apartment complex. At 7:30 a.m., neighbors reported seeing Mary Jayne taking her children to school, returning alone to her apartment shortly after. Security cameras captured Hurst arriving at the complex at 8:15 a.m., carrying what appeared to be breakfast, a routine he had established over the past months. By 9 a.m., Mary Jayne had made several calls to friends, her voice tense during these brief conversations. Text messages from her phone showed she had tried reaching out to family members, though most messages went unsent, deleted, before completion. At 10 a.m., she picked up her children early from school, claiming a family emergency. The next hour proved critical. Between 10:30 and 11 a.m., multiple neighbors reported hearing raised voices from Mary Jayne's apartment. At 11:15 a.m., a video call connected from the prison where Michael King was incarcerated. What happened during this call would set in motion the final, fatal sequence of events. The video call at 11:15 a.m. captured the moment Hurst dropped his facade entirely. As King connected to speak with his son, Hurst deliberately moved into frame, positioning himself behind the child. The footage, later recovered by investigators, showed Hurst's calculated transformation from pretend father figure to revealed tormentor. "Remember me?" Hurst taunted King, his voice carrying none of the warmth he'd previously shown the children. "Remember what you took from me?" In the background, Mary Jayne could be heard trying to intervene, her voice rising with panic as she realized the danger. The call captured her desperate attempts to protect her child. "No, get away, baby, no, get away from him." Then came the sound that would haunt everyone who later viewed the footage. The sharp crack of Hurst striking King's son, followed by the child's cry of pain and confusion. Mary Jayne's scream filled the background as she rushed to shield her child. The video call ended abruptly, cutting off just as Hurst turned toward Mary Jayne. The next moments in apartment 247 turned fatal. At 11:30 a.m., neighbors heard what they thought was a gunshot. Multiple calls flooded emergency services, with residents reporting screams followed by complete silence. First responders arrived within minutes, but they were already too late. When police entered the apartment, they found a scene that contradicted initial reports. There was no gunshot wound. Instead, the Harris County medical examiner would later confirm that Mary Jayne Collins died from blunt force trauma and a single stab wound. The murder weapon, a kitchen knife, was found in the sink, recently washed. The apartment showed signs of a desperate struggle. Furniture was overturned, a coffee table shattered. Mary Jayne had fought for her life, evident from defensive wounds on her hands and arms. A broken phone lay in the corner, its screen cracked from impact. Her final attempted call for help never completed. The most chilling discovery came from the apartment's security camera footage. It showed Hurst leaving calmly through a back exit, taking an evasive path through neighboring properties. The most heartrending aspect of this tragedy was that Mary Jayne's 2 young sons were present during their mother's final moments. Found huddled together in their bedroom closet by first responders, the boys had followed what their mother had screamed at them to do: hide and stay quiet. The older child, barely 9 years old, had covered his younger brother's ears and eyes, trying to shield him from the sounds coming from the living room. When officers found them, the older boy was still whispering comforting words to his brother, repeating what his mother had always told them: "Everything will be okay." The impact of witnessing such trauma would require long-term professional support for both children. The older son, who had watched the video call confrontation and his mother's desperate attempt to protect them, carried the additional burden of having seen Hurst's true nature revealed. Both boys were taken into the immediate care of their grandmother, who would later describe their night terrors and fear of closed doors. Their presence that day added another layer to Hurst's cruelty. He had chosen to act while knowing the children were home, making them witnesses to their mother's murder. The investigation into Mary Jayne Collins' murder began immediately, with detectives focusing on the discrepancy between reported gunshots and the actual cause of death. The initial assessment at the scene revealed that Mary Jayne had died from blunt force trauma and a stab wound, not gunfire, as neighbors had reported. Detectives quickly identified Dawayland Hurst as their primary suspect, piecing together the connection between him and Michael King through database records. The prison video call provided crucial evidence documenting Hurst's presence in the apartment and his violent behavior just before the murder. Investigators discovered that Hurst had planned this crime meticulously. They found evidence that he had researched Mary Jayne's routine months before approaching her, including notes about her schedule and her children's activities. The investigation also revealed that Hurst had created multiple social media accounts to monitor Mary Jayne's online activity before ever meeting her, proving the premeditated nature of his actions. The evidence against Hurst mounted quickly. His own digital footprint provided investigators with crucial proof of his calculated plan. Text messages recovered from Mary Jayne's phone showed a pattern of increasing control and threats. Photos she had sent to friends documented the progression of abuse, complete with timestamps and locations. The prison video call became key evidence, recording not only Hurst's assault on King's son, but also Mary Jayne's voice in the background, proving he was the last person with her. Security cameras at Teakwood Apartments captured Hurst's arrival that morning and his departure after the murder, showing him changing his clothes and discarding items in various dumpsters. In Mary Jayne's apartment, investigators found Hurst's DNA throughout, including under her fingernails, indicating her fierce struggle for survival. They also discovered a series of notebooks where Mary Jayne had documented instances of abuse, including dates and descriptions. Her final entry was dated October 3rd, just 1 day before her murder, reading, "He knows something about Michael. He's not who he says he is." After the murder, Hurst vanished from Seabrook, triggering a 3-week manhunt. Security footage showed him leaving the apartment complex on foot, taking a winding path through residential areas, changing direction multiple times to avoid main roads. He had clearly planned his escape route, avoiding areas with cameras. For 24 days, Hurst moved between locations, using cash only and staying off social media. He reached out to no one, not even family members. However, his efforts to stay hidden were ultimately futile. On October 28, 2024, a tip led authorities to Texas City, where they found Hurst hiding in a motel room under a false name. The arrest itself was swift and without incident. When officers entered his room, they found evidence suggesting he was preparing to leave the country. Fake identification documents and a large amount of cash. In his possession, they discovered a phone containing videos of Mary Jayne with her children, which he had apparently watched repeatedly during his time as a fugitive. His only words upon arrest were, "Is King hurting yet?" The aftermath of Mary Jayne's murder left deep wounds in her family, particularly affecting her two young sons. Her grandmother took custody of the boys, creating a safe haven in her home where they could begin to process their trauma. The older son, who witnessed the video call confrontation, struggled with severe anxiety and refused to participate in any video calls, even with trusted family members. The younger boy developed attachment issues, panicking whenever his grandmother left his sight. Both children required specialized counseling to help them cope with not only losing their mother, but having witnessed the betrayal of someone they had grown to trust. Their grandmother noted how they would sometimes sleep together in the same bed, the older brother still protecting the younger one. Mary Jayne's family faced the enormous task of maintaining stability for the children while processing their own grief. They established a trust fund for the boys' future education, turning their pain into purpose. The children's teachers worked closely with the family, creating a support system at school where the boys could feel safe and understood. The murder of Mary Jayne Collins revealed how revenge can create ripples of tragedy affecting innocent lives. This case exposed critical gaps in protecting victims of domestic violence, particularly when abusers deliberately target their victims through calculated deception. Her death raised questions about how society can better protect single parents from those who might exploit their vulnerability. The role of prison communication systems also came under scrutiny. The video call that captured Hurst's taunting of King highlighted the complex balance between maintaining inmates' family connections and ensuring these communications don't enable further victimization. This led to discussions about improving monitoring systems and implementing better safeguards. Most significantly, Mary Jayne's case demonstrated how past violence can generate new cycles of tragedy. Hurst's revenge, born from his brother's murder, created two more traumatized children, perpetuating a cycle of pain across generations. This prompted local advocacy groups to develop new programs focusing on breaking cycles of retaliatory violence and supporting children who witness domestic violence. As of early 2025, Dawayland Hurst awaits trial in custody, charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and multiple counts of child endangerment. His decision to harm Mary Jayne's children during the video call led prosecutors to add additional charges, ensuring he faces the maximum possible penalties for his actions. The two young boys now live permanently with their grandmother, who received full custody with support from both extended families. They continue their healing journey through specialized trauma therapy, slowly rebuilding their sense of security. Their school has implemented additional support systems, including on-site counseling resources for both children. The case has prompted changes in how local law enforcement handles domestic violence cases, particularly those involving single parents. New protocols help officers identify potential revenge-motivated relationships and provide enhanced protection for vulnerable families. The video footage from the prison call became crucial evidence, leading to policy changes in prison communication monitoring. Before we conclude Mary Jayne's story, I need your help to create real change. If this case has moved you, there are 3 crucial ways you can make a difference right now. First, share this video with someone who needs to hear these warning signs. You never know whose life you might save. Second, hit the like button and subscribe to support our mission of bringing attention to these critical stories. Your engagement helps these important messages reach more people who need to hear them. Finally, leave a comment sharing what you've learned from Mary Jayne's story. What warning signs stood out to you? What would you tell someone in a similar situation? Your insights could help others recognize dangerous patterns in their own relationships. Together, we can help prevent future tragedies and protect vulnerable families. The story of Mary Jayne Collins is more than a tragic headline. It's a stark reminder of how revenge can destroy multiple lives in its wake. A young mother's death left 2 boys without their mother, a family shattered, and a community forever changed. Her murder wasn't just the end of her life. It was the beginning of a lifelong journey of healing for her children. What makes this case particularly heartbreaking is its preventability. Had Hurst chosen to break the cycle of violence rather than perpetuate it, 2 young boys would still have their mother. Instead, his decision to use Mary Jayne as a pawn in his revenge plot against Michael King created new victims, extending the reach of tragedy across another generation. As we remember Mary Jayne, we must also remember her strength. Even in her final moments, she fought to protect her children, giving them instructions that likely saved their lives. Her story serves as both a warning and a call to action, a reminder that breaking cycles of violence requires all of us to recognize, speak up, and act when we see warning signs in our communities.